Good morning. It's kind of a cold fall morning, almost October, and you can feel kind of the briskness in the air. So I got my warm-up sweatshirt on. So today will be lesson 25 in the series of instructional videos for Master Kuo Lien Ying's original Tai Chi form. And many of you have been looking forward to this last lesson to complete the form. Of course, as I presented in the link to this video. The end is just the beginning. I talked about how when you finally finish the form and you don't have to worry about what move comes next, you can really start to learn about the form itself. Again, the form itself is just the basis for learning. It's not really like the end result. But of course, getting through learning the form is a journey in itself. And this is both a joyous moment, joyful because you finally completed the form, something that many of you who have like started from the beginning learning these lessons have been looking forward to finally completing the entire form, and now you feel completed. And it's also bittersweet, bittersweet in that it's kind of the end of this particular session together. I compare it to kind of like when you take a car trip. You plan to go somewhere, that's your destination. But as you're driving in a car through the scenery and the mountains, you start to enjoy the trip for itself. And say you're traveling with a good group of friends and you have a good time along the way and you're talking. And suppose at the end of the destination, you might all go your own ways, or you all might be at different campgrounds or something like that, different cabins. And so it's a different segment of the journey. And so you kind of like bittersweet because you're ending that part of the journey together. Of course, some of you might uh, keep watching these videos, and some of you might not. You just wanted to watch these videos to learn the form, and that's perfectly fine. I think how we'll approach today's lesson is that I'm going to get right into the ending movements. They're easy movements, movements that you know, variations of grass, bird's tail, and then I'll do a review of the entire ending section, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how to proceed, where to go from here, kind of what all these lessons have meant to us. So that's how we'll take today. As I've emphasized in many of my lessons, learning progression is that you should consider the movements individual. Of course, we tend to think of the form as an entire unit, and that's why we're so excited to finish learning the form. We think of the form itself as the long, continuous segments of movements, but each movement is important in itself. And I've given you different tips on how to practice. One thing in practicing that you need to understand, so we've taken like 8 months to travel this journey of learning the form, and that's pretty much the standard time that would have taken you had you taken lessons to learn the form. I haven't tried to condense it into a short period. I've kind of taught one lesson a week, so much. And you have to understand that when you learn the form, you learn the first move, and then by the time you get to the second move, you repeat the first move quite a few times, and by the time you get to now where we are, almost the end, you repeated the first move 1,000 times, and then you repeat it like halfway through the move 500 times, and now you've only repeated the last move a few times. So you can see that the earlier moves you get a lot of practice, but when you get to the end of the form, the last moves, and so one way to practice is almost backwards. And so as I've brought it in, divided up into sections, you can do one section at a time. So a good idea would be actually to practice this last section that we've learned over and over, and then work backwards, then do the repeat section, and then do the diagonal section, and then the repeat section, and then the beginning section, because you've already practiced the beginning section many times if you practice as most people practice, just kind of going from the beginning to the last move instead of just practicing each segment over and over. If you go out one day and say, I'm going to work on the ending section and work on that ending section will get as much practice as you did in the beginning section. But unfortunately, the classical way of training is you do from the beginning to the end over and over. And so the ending parts tend to get mixed up for a lot of people if they get away from practicing for a while, because that's the least amount of times that they practice those particular moves. So in today's lesson, we're actually going to do that. We're going to take the last point that we were, which is from kick, cross wave of water lily kick, and go right into the ending movement. And then we're going to work backwards a little bit in the lesson and then go back to the beginning of the ending section. So let's take it from this kick here, cross wave of water lily kick. And then shoot tiger with bow. So that's the last lesson that we come from. So from shoot tiger with bow, I tell you you could step up into a neutral stance here, okay? From here, you're going to step on the diagonal and reach out into your kind of like L stance with your hands for grass bird's tail. Then rock back into, so when you originally learn the first grass bird's tail, you step back and step out. So in the third variation of grass bird's tail, you just sink back into the the horse, and then you depress forward. So again, let's take it again from here, cross wave of water lily kick, and then shoot tiger with bow, and step up to neutral stance. My left foot didn't move at all. It's facing forward from the kick, and then step on the 45-degree diagonal. And I just kind of come with my hands in front of the pelvis area, just kind of relax, but with some lift in the elbows. Then as I step out, I reach out into the L stance for grass bird's tail. Remember, this hand to this hand is about the distance from wrist to elbow. Then I rock back, toe up, and then I sink back into the horse as I do the press. From here, I'm going to come back to this neutral stance and then step back on a 45 with the same grass bird tail posture. From here, I'm back on the toe and I'm in the forward position for grass bird tail. So from here, you have to step out into that forward position. From here, you're stepping back here. So let's take it again from shoot tiger with bow. Step forward, neutral position. Step out on the 45, form the L, rock down, sit down in a horse, and turn from the waist and press. Again, slight relaxation of this arm. This arm is really straight so that the hands are even. Come back to the neutral stance, step out, again, stay centered, toe goes out, so your balance stays centered. Now, rock back, sit in a horse, turn from the waist, and press. So since you already know grass bird tail from the very beginning move, I think it's pretty nice that it starts out with grass bird tail and ends with grass bird tail. Third variation, because in second variation it was a step up back here, remember? I like the fact that it begins and ends with that same movement. So one more time, from shoot tiger with bow, step up, neutral position, step forward on the 45, rock back, sit in a horse, come back to center, step back, stay in one place, then rock back, turn from the waist. From here, we're going to cross left over right, and then step together. Circle with the hands down, stay low. Then from here, you press and rise. This last move is called conclusion of the Grand Terminus. Terminus. Got a hard time pronouncing that. And that's the end. From this position here, it's like you're gathering all the energy that you've created and power from the form. And then it's like a Qigong exercise, right? Like sinking and rising. And then usually here, I like to just kind of relax and kind of let that flow through my body. Kind of auspicious because right at this moment, the sun is just rising. So, okay, so that's the end of the form and the beginning of your learning. So again, let's take it again from the kick, and then we'll take it from step up to form 7 stars, kind of working backwards, as I explained, just kind of learning how to kind of work on your form going in a backwards direction. So from here, cross wave of water lily kick, and then shoot tiger with bow, step up, step out on the 45, step back to neutral, step back on the 45, cross the hands, left over right, step together, so the two movements are grass bird tail, right and left, and then conclusion of the Grand Terminus. Again, in the earlier, a few lessons ago, I talked about the footwork of where you want to end the form. Of course, you start the form in the middle, and then you want to conclude your form in the middle. And I talked about trying to end on the same spot. So if you, from here, after step up to form 7 stars, when you put your foot back to retreat to ride tiger, that spot right there will be ending the end of the position of where you end the form. Why? Because as you come around to this 45 degree for cross wave water lily kick, that foot ends up in the same place here, and then shoot tiger with bow. When you step forward and then step back and then finish, that foot is in the same place. So when you're doing your form to the end, no matter where you traveled, when you step up to form 7 stars, so that comes from down, single whip, and then step up, right? So it comes from the last single whip. That's what I was telling you. The single whip where that right foot is, and you go down, step up to form 7 stars, step back, retreat to right tiger, turn the moon, grass first tail left side, that'll be in the same spot. So that's how you can kind of like begin and end on the same spot. You can go many different directions, but that ending foot after you step back for retreat to right tiger will be the spot that you finish. So in the concept of working backwards, let's take the ending section and start from the beginning of the ending section from fan through arm, and then work back to the end of the form as I just taught. So in fan through the arm, that's the beginning of the ending section. Step forward and deflect to the left. Press forward. Strike opponent's ears with fists and through sky cannon. Turn, single whip. Wave hand like clouds. Single whip. High paddle and horse. First cross wave of water lily kick. Downward fist. Step up. Grass bird's tail. Step up. Single whip. Wave hand like clouds going back in the other direction. So remember, I want to finish in the middle in here. Single whip down and step up to form 7 stars. Retreat to right tiger. Slanting body, turn the moon. Cross wave water lily kick, second time. Shoot tiger with bow. Step up for grass bird tail. Right side. Step back to neutral. Step back. Grass bird tail. Left side. Cross the hands. Conclusion of the Grand Terminus. So there you have it. The finish of the lessons for Master Kuo Lien Ying's original Tai Chi form. I would be remiss if I didn't remember to thank everybody for their support in this journey through teaching Master Kuo Lien Ying's original Tai Chi form. Thank you for all the support that you have given me. It's motivated me to do these lessons. You know, when I first started these lessons, I had somebody that I knew ask me, Randy, why are you teaching these lessons for free? And even my brother said, you know, you could be selling these lessons on a DVD disc and making money. But I told them both. It's kind of like a service as a payback for what my sifu gave me. I've always thought, I mean, through all my years of teaching, that you can't place a value on uh, learning in learning Tai Chi because if I teach somebody and then they drop their practice, they would have gained nothing from it. But if I teach somebody and it changes their life, it makes me so happy. But they could never really pay me back because it changes their life so much. So you really can't put a value on it. And after all these years teaching, I realized that um, it's something that changed my life so much that I just want to share it. I have this concept of what I call winking in the dark. Um, it's kind of, if you were in a circle of people and you saw somebody you were attracted to and you tried to wink to them, it was pitch black. They wouldn't know, right? So I thought winking in the dark is kind of an example of if I learned all this and I never passed it on, and this like winking in the dark, it would have done no good. Nobody would have known. So I felt like I wanted a way to pass on at least what little knowledge I've gained to share with people so that it wouldn't be lost on me. I've gained value from it, but maybe somebody else could gain value from it. So that was one of the reasons why I um, decided to teach without any monetary gain. And of course, it's kind of payback for what Sifu has given me. And of course, without all of your support, this would not have been possible. This whole YouTube channel thing was a new experience for me. I've never done anything like this. I've always actually had a hard time talking in front of people, very self-conscious. When I grew up, I hated public speaking. I just like gave me the shivers. And so it took a while to get used to talking in front of a camera. I know that many people, when they think about being on camera and then being presented on YouTube, being presented to such a huge possible audience, because you don't always get a big audience, but sometimes you do, is nerve wracking because you just kind of like you are exposing yourself to the world. And it took a little bit of practice so that I could talk into the camera without kind of like, so I can kind of talk as if I was talking to another person. And teaching online is difficult because you don't have that personal interaction of seeing the person move. And so you're having to remember as you're doing it and teaching it what to include in the lessons so that you don't have to go back over the material. So this has been a journey for me, and you've made it possible from your support. We've grown to almost, let's see, we're at 1,570 and getting close to 580. So without your support, this would not have been possible. And of course, by your support, your likes and subscribing, it reaches a bigger audience. And of course, that was my main motivation for presenting both instructional videos for Master Kuo's Tai Chi form and his legacy about his overall curriculum as promoting to the world what Sifu actually taught. Mm, there's a lot of politics in Kung Fu, and I'm not going to get into talking about the politics of the Guang Ping Tai Chi. But what I wanted to do in presenting these series of instructional videos was to go back to what Sifu taught in Portsmouth Square for so many years, from 1966 all the way to his passing in the mid 1980s, 1985, I believe. And for all those years, he taught the same Tai Chi form, a very consistent Tai Chi form. And whenever you could see somebody practicing their Tai Chi form, if they studied with Sifu, you would know that they practiced with Sifu because you could see the form was the same. And as I went on YouTube looking for to see who was presenting material on Master Kuo, I saw other forums being promoted as Guan Ping, um, and I wanted to clarify what Sifu taught versus what some of his other branches of lineage have taught. I'm not saying that they're incorrect. I'm not saying that they're um, any different. They are different in the way they present the form. And so I wanted to go back to what Sifu taught. I know that Sifu would want this. I know because when I asked him if I could teach, said that I had to come down and study with him personally so that he would be sure that what I was teaching was what he wanted to teach. Um, all those years that we practiced in Portsmouth Square, we all thought that Bing Gong, our oldest senior Kung Fu brother, Sifu's main disciple, will carry on the legacy of Sifu. Um, and when I started the YouTube channel, I asked Bing, who was a close friend of mine, if he wanted to do it with me, but Bing wanted to move on to other things. And so all of a sudden, I felt a responsibility because I was in a prime position to do these videos. One, because I've been taught personally by Sifu. Two, because I had much of the documentation from the old days. And again, documentation is important because Sifu didn't give a letter of certification. He just granted permission for people to teach. And so now when people are teaching, whether they come from a different lineage or even through Sifu, um, anybody can claim that they learned from Sifu and start teaching. So, but the documentation that I presented of both myself doing the Tai Chi when I was studying with Sifu, uh, videos of Sifu himself doing Tai Chi or talking about the Tai Chi, kind of are kind of the proof of certification because I had all that information to preserve the legacy, both because I was a film student and because Bing gave me a lot of his own documentation that he had to preserve through the ages. And so I felt like it was my responsibility having this potential to keep Sifu's legacy intact and as he taught it. And as well, many of the other branches did not teach the total curriculum that Sifu did. Sifu not only taught Tai Chi, but he taught Northern Shaolin and weapons associated with the curriculum. And since I knew most of the sets, maybe three-quarters of the forms that Sifu taught, I thought it was my duty and honor to, in preserving his legacy, to continue to teach and show the beauty of what Sifu taught as a total curriculum rather than just itemizing out Tai Chi. Because some of the other branches, they learn the Tai Chi form, but they incorporated other styles of Qigong, other styles of Xingyi and Bakwa, internal arts and other weapon forms into the mixture. And so it became kind of distorted when you would look up on Google Guang Ping Tai Chi, and then there was all these other things associated with it. So part of my motivation for presenting this material on YouTube was to try to preserve Sifu's legacy as much intact as I possibly could and as honestly as I could. And so that's the motivation for presenting these videos. Even though this is the end of the instructional videos, is not the end of the videos on my presentation of my understanding of Sifu's teaching of what it has become known as Guang Ping Tai Chi. Um, myself, I don't really like the term Guang Ping Tai Chi because it's too overall encompassing. It includes so many other variations of the form, and it kind of like doesn't give the general public a clear, concise idea of what Sifu himself taught. Throughout the lessons, I presented pictures of Sifu from his book to show how closely this form that I'm teaching relates to what Sifu was presenting in his book. And this is the book that you can find these photos in. There was many variations of this particular booklet. This uh, when I first met Sifu in 1967, I went in the studio and bought a copy of the book, and Sifu signed it for me. And this is a picture of the signature on the book, and that's a very prized possession of mine because it shows the date that I actually started with Sifu. But this booklet here is kind of a later edition of the booklet. Throughout these lessons, I included the number of the movements, and that was from a later variation. In a very early book, the number of the movements were smaller, but then he decided to change it to include the 64 movements. So in this booklet here, as I show the photographs and naming the number of the moves, they kind of correspond with this booklet. And also, my friend Gordon Gutman did a book similar to Sifu and included this, and the photos are included in this booklet as well. So this booklet, Tai Chi Chuan in Theory and Practice, is available, I believe, on Amazon. And you get a copy of this book so you can have yourself. And then there's other writings in this book that are included that you might like to read. So that's much of where this material comes from. And this is the only book that was sanctioned by Sifu. The book by Tom and Cecile, Lipo and Ananda, Wave Hand Like Clouds, was never sanctioned by Sifu. So throughout the lessons, people have asked me about how this corresponds to other books like Wave Hand Like Clouds, and I've never looked at that book. I don't know anything about the book. All I can say is I did not meet Tom and Cecile during the early days, and they studied mostly with Simu. But I know what I know. That's all I can say, and that's all I'm trying to teach. I don't want to get into the politics. I don't know what other people know. I only know what I know, and so that is part of my reasons for presenting these videos. So again, I really like to thank everybody for their participation, and I hope that you continue along with me in our journey together. I have much more to share, both from my own understanding and what Sifu taught me. I think the next emphasis will be on the historical context. I have a lot to present. I just don't really have time to do 3 or 4 lessons a week. It's just very time consuming to do these videos. So now that we've completed the form and people have time to work on it, we'll kind of go in and out and present material on the Tai Chi. I think on the 4 pillars of Tai Chi, I still want to present the 4th pillar, a little bit about pushing hands, but I'm kind of waiting to see if I can reconnect with some of my old students to have them come and participate so we can show actually 2-man practice. They've kind of gone off and done different things, so it may not be as easy to connect. And again, I know the idea of them kind of stepping in and kind of being in front of a large audience might be scary to them. So let's see who I can talk into doing that. But for now, the next push will be to kind of present a little bit more historical context. And as well, I want to continue on with the journey into the Dandao, the Shaolin broadsword, and also into Chatuan, the second form of Shaolin. I understand that a lot of people who are consider themselves Tai Chi students have no interest in Shaolin. And that's really kind of sad to me because Shaolin is just a strong. I mean, people that kind of think that Tai Chi is internal, and therefore I don't want to be involved with something that's considered external. I don't have those separations myself, and I gained so much understanding of my own Taiji from my bases in Shaolin. As I said before, many Tai Chi practitioners and experts and masters had Shaolin training in their background. There's much value to be gained from that. And again, in preserving Sifu's legacy, this was all part of its overall curriculum. I think it's really important to present that material as well. So, so looking forward to moving on along the journey with you in another realm. Thank you.